So you can see overall this herd's replacement index is 4 stars. Okay, so obviously if you have 5 stars, you're in the top 20%. 4 stars, you're in the top 40%. So this herd, on average, their cows are in the top 40% on the replacement index across the whole herd, and that will vary. There'll be some cows in there that could be in the top 1%. There could also be cows in there in the bottom 1%. But overall, the herd is sitting at a reasonably high level in the top 40% on average. Pretty good 4 stars on carcass weight. So you'll see, and that cow in there is probably a very good example of it. A real good terminal beef type cow. You know, she's a lot of weight, a lot of shape on her, and you know that's the sort of cow that's on this herd. And on average, they're in the top 40% for carcass weight. They're in 3-star bracket for daughter milk, so they're okay for milk. They're not at the top of the class, but they're not at the bottom of the class. And I suppose that's a good example of a production system choice. Some farmers want cows with loads of milk. Some farmers would say, well, geez, there's such a thing as also having a cow with too much milk. And what you're trying to do is balance up these traits. You're not trying to get maybe the top 1% for milk and then be in the bottom 1% for carcass weight. You know, that wouldn't probably be a balanced or a sustainable approach if your cows are really, really good for one thing and really poor for other things. Daughter calving interval, 2-star. So on average, you'd say that when you put the herd overall together, they're in the bottom 40%. So you'd say maybe there's room to improve, or there's scope for focusing in on trying to breed in a more fertile cow type into the herd. And then in docility, 4-star on average. So again, the cows on average are quite good on docility. And that cow that we picked out there in terms of the example, she's a very good mixture of those key traits. Okay, she's you can see her star value here down in this table. She's 138 euros on the replacement index. So she's in the top 20% of cows on her overall replacement index. And she's in the top 5%, or the 5 stars, she's in the top 20% for carcass weight. So she's really strong for the carcass weight. And she's okay for milk. She's 2-star, you know, she has enough. But she's also extremely fertile, okay? And that's borne out, that's at genetic level, we're predicting her to be quite fertile based on the information that we have. And it's also borne out in the phenotypic or the on-farm actual performance of what that cow has done, okay? She calved first as a 25-month-old, call her a 2-year-old at calving. Her average calving interval is for 363 days over 8 calvings. So that's really, really strong. You know, if you put her up against the whole cow population in the country, she'd be right up at the top of the class. To have 8 calves 1 year after another for 8 years in a row is really, really strong. So, you know, we're capable of identifying these types of animals, that what's happening on the farm here in Laois is also reflected in what's happening on the computer, what the computer is able to highlight. And you can see her calf then that's with her, calf type 590, a really high CBV calf. That calf is obviously going to be finished, or presumably going to be finished here on the farm. And a calf with a high CBV, and Keelan will be touching on the CBV at the last stop. That calf is very likely, genetically very likely, with good husbandry, to be a profitable animal, to be finished as a beef animal here on the farm.